welcome to the new video today. Thank you so much for clicking on it. It's way early in the morning. As you can see, the sun has not even come up yet. So you're probably wondering, why are you up this early, especially on a Saturday? Shouldn't you be sleeping in? Yeah, but for some reason, I'm waking up so early to ride my mountain bike. I'm riding something like 95 miles on the mountain bike today. It's gonna be a really brutal / epic day. It's gonna be absolutely crazy, but it's about 5:45 now, so I really need to get in the car because I've got to head over to Wooden Way, which is about a 40-minute drive. We're starting the ride at 6:45 because hopefully the sun will be up by then and we'll have some daylight. So let me get in the car and I'll explain what this ride is gonna be, because like I said, it's gonna be totally epic. So today we are riding the Bald Eagle Challenge. This was an event that our bike shop basically laid out an epic course, and they came and supported us at the Leadville Trail 100 last year, saw how cool, how crazy that was, and wanted to try to do something similar here at home. We are riding all of the single track trail in the land between the lakes and also a bunch of gravel roads to make something like a 93-mile loop. I expect it to be probably close to 8,000 foot of elevation change, and it's just going to be a long, brutal day. The course is probably like 60 to 70% single track. That's a lot of single track for such a long ride. A couple of people tried to do it and they couldn't finish it. There's only actually been one person to finish the course so far, so the whole goal of today is to try to finish it, to see how brutal it actually is, and basically to prove that it is possible for the most part. Truthfully, I really did not want to do this ride today. I've had to really motivate myself to do it, and this just seems like a super hard effort for no reason. We got a couple minutes before the start, so I'm pretty much ready to go. I'm going to put the camera away, switch over to the GoPro, and see how this day shakes out. I took 2 GoPros with me, and both GoPros had lots of issues, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So my footage was not great of this ride, but I feel like a lot of people probably expect me to make a video because this was like probably the most epic ride I've done this year. So I wanted to talk about it and just kind of give you guys the recap of what the ride was. Basically, we set out and we ride single track for like 13 miles. We ride gravel roads and a little bit of paved roads up until mile 60, and then we head into the north-south trail and ride 40 miles of single track with a little bit of gravel roads, like to connect the trails together. But literally you ride every single track trail inland between the lakes. When we did it earlier in May, we actually gave up probably around mile 65, and I had no motivation to do that ride. I didn't want to go do a training ride that was that long. We had already been out for like 6 hours, and I don't like to train past 6 hours just because you start digging yourself into a hole of fatigue that you can't really get out of. So I just was not into it that day. So when the conversation of quitting came up, I was like, yeah, that sounds great because this is stupid. Over the past couple months, there's been a couple of attempts to do the course that have failed. One person had done it prior to us doing the unofficial event, and so it was kind of getting the stigma that it was too hard for most people. And when the group decided to do it as an unofficial event, I still didn't want to do it. I need a reason to go and do something like that, and I didn't have a reason. So my first obstacle was trying to decide what motivates me to go and complete this route, because most people who were doing it, they wanted to train for it and kind of prove to themselves that they could do that. But honestly, I didn't feel like I needed that. I kind of had this feeling that if I put my mind into it, that I could go and do it, and I didn't need to prove that to myself or anybody else. So that wasn't a very good point of motivation for me. And I just started to have to think like, you know, people are saying this ride is nearly impossible, and the fact that I did the Leadville Trail 100 last year, and I knew how hard an effort that was. Based on TSS, it was my hardest ride ever, and so I kind of thought, well, I want to compare to see how hard this is to something like Leadville, because I've got some big plans for next year, some big training goals for next year, and this is kind of, you know, being towards the end of the year, it's kind of like giving me some perspective on those goals and events for next year. So that became my motivation. 11 people in total were there. I think 2 of them had pretty much started with the plan of bailing out at the first main SAG place, which was 60 miles in, which is the furthest south that you go. So you head 60 miles south and then you come up about 40 miles north on the trail. And so really there was probably 9 of us trying to fully complete the course. Now it starts out with 13 miles of single track, and I set the pace on the first like 5 miles. There were a lot of complaints that my pace was too fast. Those of you that are mountain bikers will know that when you're flowing, you're not really putting in a lot of effort and you're able to go fast, and that's basically what it felt like. And anytime I hit a hill, I just let my momentum carry me and just kind of did a couple little pedal strokes and didn't put too much pressure down on the pedals. So I felt like I was going fast, but not too fast. And then we backed off a little bit for the next section of trail, and then once we got to the gravel roads, it was kind of like, you know, you knew you needed to back off, you knew you didn't need to push a fast pace, but at the same time, it was really hard because we had a group. We lost Kevin because he had some tire problems, but it was me, Dustin, and Clay, and we were kind of working together quite a bit, especially when we got to the road portion. I think this is part of the course that's very tricky for a lot of people, because when you ride gravel and roads like that, it's easy to go fast and not feel like you're putting out a lot of pressure. We took a short break around mile 40 where there was another small sag, but we didn't really need anything. We just waited for Kevin. Kevin was only a couple minutes behind, so we let him catch on, and then we headed on to the 60-mile sag. About probably 5 to 7 miles before that 60-mile sag, I could tell I was starting to bonk.
Your bag?
We made it to our main sag, 60 miles in. Now we have to ride about 40 miles of trail. This is going to be the really hard part.
And she's bonking a bit, but no biggie.
Just a little.
She's good.
I'm feeling better.
I think my PB&J healed you.
No, I think it could have been better, but no.
Stale bread, it's fine. It's good for you. It's like a crouton.
I guess it doesn't matter. It was like a homemade crouton.
Yeah, it's like a crouton sandwich.
Because we were on these gravel roads, we were literally baking in the sun, and it really made you not want to eat. I drank all of my water and actually ran out of water before that 5 to 7 miles. So not only not having anything to sip on right then and not really wanting to eat, I felt the bonk coming. And for me, that's very obvious because I feel it in my head. It's when my brain is asking for sugar, but my body's like, I ain't got any. Ate a bunch of stuff, a bunch of random stuff, and I couldn't tell if I really felt better or not. My head felt a little bit better, but my stomach didn't feel great. My stomach felt just kind of like it didn't want anything else to go in there. And so I was like, all right, well, we will see what happens. Let's hit the trail. Because at that point, I knew that there wasn't anything that I could do. I would just have to fight off the cramps for as long as possible, because I was so close to bonking that I knew that I could ride for a while and keep pushing myself away just a little bit if I could keep intaking a little bit of sugar. When we hit the trail, like the first 15 miles are the worst part of the trail. It's a little bit more technical. There's some really crazy climbs down there. And with my brain lacking sugar, I actually struggled on some of the technical climbs. Like I would just get to them and get off my bike. Like I didn't even try some of them because my brain was like, that looks hard, don't do it. But I kept going, and my brain did start feeling better, and my stomach was fine as long as I didn't get my heart rate up to my max heart rate. If I kept it fairly low, I say fairly low, if I kept it low enough, then my stomach felt fine. But if I did like a really steep hard climb, I'd kind of feel it like, kind of coming up. And so I tried to avoid that. We walked a couple of the harder hills and I was able to keep going. My legs felt good, so I just kept pedaling, and my whole goal was to get to the Birmingham sag stop, because at Birmingham I had a mini Coke and a couple of other items that I knew if I could get there, I would be able to eat those and that I would be fine. Up until that point, I tried to eat a chomp, one of those little chews, but I ate it and it took everything for me to swallow it. I just couldn't do it. I never cramped. I fell over once and cramped, but you know, when you're on your limit and you fall over, a cramp kind of happens. But other than that, when I was actually riding, I never cramped. And Dustin was cramping really bad. He had to quit. Kevin started cramping, but he kept going. But I was riding a little bit faster pace than him. And so I just kept rolling. I got to the Birmingham rest stop. I drank my mini Coke, ate a Snickers, ate a Reese's Pumpkin, and took another bottle of Scratch Labs hydration with me. I was only like 15 miles from the end at that point. So I knew that I was gonna finish, and being able to take in that little bit of sugar was gonna get me to the end. And basically I felt fine. I was completely shocked that for the 40 miles of single track, I literally took in a bottle and a half of Scratch Labs, a Snickers, a mini Coke, and the Reese's Pumpkin. And that allowed me to survive. I burned 4,000 calories in total. So I probably ate about 2,000 total on the ride. So that's how big the deficit was. I was still able to drink for the most part. So I think that's what was really helping me keep my cramps away and just being able to survive out there. Of the 11 of us that actually started, only me and Kevin finished the entire route. So I guess maybe it is a incredibly hard route. Based on TSS and all the data that I have, wasn't harder than Leadville. I didn't feel like it was as hard as Leadville. There were definitely mistakes made, for example, with the nutrition, not preparing as well for the heat. You know, we're in that time of year where the seasons change a lot, and one minute you're heat adapted and then the next it's fall and then it's back to summer. I'm sorry this video is different. It's not like my usual content. With the GoPros not cooperating, I didn't know what to do with the little footage that I had. So I thought I would just try to make this little recap for you guys and just tell you about this ride. And like I said, 100 miles on the mountain bike. It took me, my total ride time, I believe, was 8 hours and 38 minutes. My total time was closer to 9.5. I was never really in a hurry at any of the sags like I would have been if I were actually racing. Me and my friends like to do really stupid rides for fun where we try to see who can survive. It's actually kind of a cool concept if you think about it. I've already heard of a couple people who are trying to plan another attempt at this route. I don't plan to do it again anytime soon just because, you know, I don't need to. I finished it. It felt great. That's going to be it for me today. I'll see you on the next one.